Not all SKUs in our portfolio are designed for omnichannel. So from an economic perspective, right? For anybody who has to work with the finance team, you've got a reality. The revenue growth management team depends on what functions your organization has, but the economics of selling online require that we think through what can actually sell profitably online. Because when I'm selling a box of cereal, in many cases, in my own history, that box of cereal costs the same amount of money to the consumer that the shipping cost to the consumer, whether or not they paid, right? They might have gotten free shipping, but it wasn't free. So if it costs $4 or $5 to buy a box of cereal and it costs $4 or $5 to ship that box of cereal, who made any money? Nobody. Now, in the short term, the retailer might have taken the hit, but at some point, every time they sell, they lose money. And so they're not going to want to pass that on to the consumer immediately, or they lose the sale. They're going to have to pass some of that on to the brand, but the brand can't sustain that forever either. So we have to think about, in many cases, different pack configurations, larger packs, bundle packs, things that can just from a base, before we even think about, are these appealing to consumers, right? We got to think of something that actually can meet the delivery or shipping costs. Now, to be fair, if you're building a basket of groceries online, you get into more of a basket value and a basket profitability, which can help offset individual SKUs. So that's why online grocery from a pickup and delivery standpoint can sometimes mask the challenges of profitability from an economic perspective, but it is something we have to think about. 2, price dynamics. So I always like to disclaim, pricing is and always will be at the sole discretion of the retailer or the seller, right? Whoever that may be. A traditional retailer, a third party, a brand who sells on a marketplace, whoever's the seller, they decide their own pricing. But to just describe what's happening in this world, online, pricing is visible to everyone, right? The retailers see each other in real time, brands can see each other in real time, and their fellow retailer partners. Shoppers are very keen. They have lots of tools, and a lot of things are serving up the best deals and the best value in real time. So as a result of price transparency online, there can be a need for strategic differentiation in the same way that we might have had to differentiate an offering to Costco or Sam's Club or BJ's to differentiate the value proposition from mass versus club. But now we have to be aware that we might have to differentiate things just a little bit more to prevent a channel-to-channel comparison, right? Because to be fair, Amazon is club. Amazon is mass. Amazon is drug. Amazon is grocery. And more of our retailers realize that they play across lots of channels depending on what categories and what SKUs you're shopping. So it's not a matter of anyone but the retailer owning their pricing strategy, but the reality is we don't have to cause channel conflicts and pricing issues, which ultimately cascade through to become profitability issues. So that can open up the opportunity to design online assortment a little differently. And then 3, while we might want to include our packaging engineers and our innovation teams here, not all SKUs were designed to ship to a consumer on what I like to call the Willy Wonka elevator, right? Back ways and diagonal ways and upside down ways, and you name the ways, right? Versus our in-store shipments of products are always on really nice palletized shipments of like items on full trucks, hand delivered to the shelf, always upright, very limited, damages generally because we've gotten this system down. But the moment I put a trigger cleaner bottle in a box to ship, maybe it wasn't ever meant to go upside down and it starts to leak, right? Some of these things have been worked out in the last 15 years since e-commerce came about. But in the early days, there were a lot of issues because packaging had not been thought through from an online one SKU to one consumer shipment perspective, right? And then there's a number of other packaging considerations when we think about sustainability and efficiency and all these things. So just to give you a little taste of how crazy the extra implications can feel up front when you're not used to building for this next layer of the omnichannel assortment we technically already had, but we need to add online.